The morning had started ordinarily enough for Sloan Margaret Bennett. She'd woken up in the obscenely comfortable king-size bed in the east wing of the Ashford estate, the one with sheets that cost more than most people's rent and pillows that seemed to have been stuffed with clouds and good intentions. She'd showered in the marble bathroom that was bigger than her childhood home, used products with French names she couldn't pronounce, and made her way down to breakfast in the conservatory, where the morning light filtered through windows so clean they might as well have been invisible. What she hadn't expected was for her Alpha's mother, the formidable Victoria Ashford, to be waiting for her with a look that could freeze lava and probably had, at least once. "Sloan," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness that immediately put her on high alert. "We need to talk." Those 4 words were never good. Sloan had learned that much in the 2 years she'd been with Victoria Ashford, heiress to the Ashford fortune and, unfortunately, daughter to the most controlling alpha woman Sloan had ever met. And she'd met some doozies. Her own mother was a piece of work, but Victoria Ashford made her look like a Hallmark card. "Good morning, Victoria," Sloan replied carefully, taking a seat at the breakfast table. She reached for the coffee pot because no amount of family drama was going to keep her from caffeine. "Thank you very much," but Victoria's next words made her freeze mid-pour. "I think it's time we address the elephant in the room." Sloan's mind raced. Which elephant? There were so many potential elephants when it came to Victoria Ashford. Was it the fact that she'd accidentally excluded Sloan from the last 3 family photos? The way she constantly introduced her as Alexandra's companion with a pause that could sink ships? Or perhaps the 17 subtle, and not so subtle, hints she'd been dropping about Omega fertility treatments? "I'm not sure what you mean," Sloan said, though she had a sinking feeling she knew exactly where this was going. Her Eggs Benedict suddenly looked less appetizing and more like a final meal. Victoria set down her teacup with a delicate clink that somehow sounded ominous. "You and Alexandra have been together for 2 years now." 2 years, and still no pregnancy. There it was. "Victoria, these things take time." The Harrisons' Omega was pregnant within 6 months. The Blackwoods' Omega had twins in the first year. Victoria's eyes were cold as she studied Sloan over the rim of her teacup. Even the Montgomerys, and their bloodline is notoriously difficult, managed an heir within 18 months. She paused, letting the words settle like poison. "It makes one wonder if perhaps there's a problem." Sloan felt heat rising to her cheeks, a mixture of embarrassment and anger that burned in equal measure. "Are you seriously suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything, dear. I'm stating facts." Victoria's smile never reached her eyes. "Alexandra needs an heir. The Ashford line must continue. And if you're unable to provide that..." She trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air like a guillotine blade. Sloan had seen that blade coming for months now, in every pointed comment, every helpful article about fertility left on her pillow, every time Victoria reminded her that Omegas had biological duties to fulfill. But hearing it spoken aloud, in that condescending tone, was something else entirely. "I'm not a broodmare," Sloan said, her voice tight. "And Alexandra and I are happy." She doesn't care about. Alexandra doesn't know what she cares about. Victoria interrupted smoothly. "She's blinded by sentiment. But I'm thinking of the family's future." She set down her teacup and folded her hands on the table, the gesture so deliberate, so rehearsed, that Sloan realized she'd been planning this conversation for weeks. "And I'm afraid, dear, that future doesn't include an Omega who can't fulfill her most basic function." The words hit Sloan like a slap. Not a physical one. Victoria was too refined for that, but something worse. Something designed to cut right to the core of everything she'd ever worried about, every insecurity she'd ever tried to hide. She stood up so quickly her chair scraped against the marble floor with a screech that made the household staff flinch in the doorway. "You can't be serious." "I'm entirely serious." Victoria didn't even flinch. I've already had your things packed. Margaret will escort you out. You're kicking me out? Sloane's voice cracked slightly, and she hated herself for it. Alexandra is in Tokyo. She doesn't even know about this. Alexandra will understand once I explain the situation. Victoria picked up her teacup again, as if dismissing her entirely. Now please, don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. As if summoned by some invisible bell, because of course Victoria had planned every detail, down to the timing, Margaret the butler appeared in the doorway, looking deeply uncomfortable. Behind her, Sloan could see 2 members of the household staff holding her suitcases. Her packed suitcases. They'd packed while she was sleeping. Madam has requested that I escort you to the gate, Margaret said quietly, her tone apologetic. I'm terribly sorry, Miss Sloan. Sloan looked between Victoria's cold expression and Margaret's sympathetic one, and realized with a sinking feeling that this was actually happening. She was actually throwing her out. 2 years of her life, packed into 3 suitcases and a designer handbag, being carried out by staff who couldn't quite meet her eyes. Pride warred with panic in Sloane's chest. Part of her wanted to argue, to fight, to call Alexandra immediately and tell her what her mother was doing. But another part, the part that had been dealing with Victoria's subtle put-downs and not-so-subtle disapproval for 2 years, just wanted to get out with whatever dignity she had left. Fine, Sloan said, lifting her chin even though her hands were shaking. But this isn't over. Alexandra will do what's best for the family, Victoria said, examining her teacup like it was the most interesting thing in the world. She always has. The walk down the grand staircase, through the marble foyer, and down the pristine driveway of the Ashford estate was the longest of Sloane's life. Each step felt like a small death, another goodbye to the life she'd built, the future she'd imagined, the family she'd thought she was becoming part of. Margaret carried one of the suitcases, maintaining a respectful silence until they reached the gates. For what it's worth, Miss Sloan, Margaret said quietly, I don't agree with Madam's methods. Miss Alexandra cares for you very much. Not enough to stand up to her mother, Sloan muttered, then immediately felt bad. It wasn't Margaret's fault. The woman had been nothing but kind to her for 2 years, bringing her tea when she was stressed, pretending not to notice when Sloan cried after Victoria's particularly cutting remarks. Sorry. Thank you for being kind, Margaret. Best of luck to you, miss. I hope things work out. With that, the gates of the Ashford estate closed behind Sloan with a definitive clang, and she was left standing on the sidewalk with 3 suitcases, a designer handbag she absolutely wasn't giving back, the Birkin bag Alexandra had bought her. Thank you very much, and the remnants of her dignity. For a long moment, Sloan just stood there, trying to process what had just happened. She'd woken up that morning as Sloan Margaret Bennett, partner to one of the most eligible alphas in the city, living in luxury at the Ashford estate. She'd had a breakfast date with Eggs Benedict and a future that seemed secure, if imperfect. Now she was just Sloan, standing on a sidewalk, homeless. The absurdity of it all hit her like a truck, and she felt a laugh bubble up in her throat. It came out slightly hysterical, causing a passing jogger to give her a worried look and cross to the other side of the street. Sloan pulled out her phone and dialed the one person who would understand. The one person who'd been telling her for months that Victoria Ashford was a monster and she deserved better. Jordan's phone of friendship and emotional support. How may I direct your call? Her best friend answered cheerfully. Jordan, you won't believe what just happened. There was a pause, that particular pause that meant Jordan had picked up on Sloane's tone and was already shifting into crisis mode. Oh God, what did she do? Jordan's voice dropped from cheerful to concerned in half a second. Did you finally snap and tell Alexandra's mom that her lip filler migrated to her earlobes? Because I've been saying that for months, and honestly, someone had to. Despite everything, Sloan felt a genuine laugh escape. What? No. Though now that you mention it, you're not wrong about the filler situation. She took a shaky breath. But no, Jordan. She kicked me out. She what? Jordan's voice went up about 3 octaves. Like, metaphorically kicked you out of a conversation or literally kicked me out of the estate. I'm standing on the sidewalk right now with my suitcases. Sloan looked down at her ridiculous, expensive suitcases, designer luggage that had cost more than most people's cars, sitting on the curb like refugees. Like some kind of Victorian orphan. A well-dressed Victorian orphan, but still. I'm coming to get you right now. Don't move. There was shuffling on Jordan's end of the line, the sound of keys being grabbed. Actually, move to somewhere with a bench. You shouldn't be standing in your condition. My condition? I'm not elderly, Jordan. You're emotionally devastated. That's a condition. Find a bench. Text me your location. I'll be there in 20. 20 minutes later, 20 minutes of Sloan sitting on a bench, watching the world go by, wondering how her life had imploded so spectacularly before noon. Jordan pulled up in her slightly beat-up sedan, took one look at Sloan's face, and immediately got out to pull her into a hug that smelled like lavender laundry detergent and solidarity. She's a monster, Jordan declared into Sloan's hair. An actual monster. We're going to put itching powder in her face cream. I know a guy who knows a guy. We're not doing that, Sloan said, but she appreciated the sentiment. She appreciated it so much. Fine, but we're definitely doing something. Jordan pulled back, her dark eyes scanning Sloan's face with the concern of someone who'd seen her through every crisis for the past 10 years. Get in. We're going to my place. You're going to tell me everything, and then we're going to plot revenge. Appropriate, legal revenge. Mostly legal. Jordan's apartment was a cozy 1-bedroom in a converted warehouse building downtown. It was roughly the size of one of the Ashford estate's walk-in closets, the small one, the one for off-season coats, but it had something the estate had never had, warmth. The walls were covered in posters from various concerts and art shows, layered on top of each other like a timeline of Jordan's interests over the years. Shelves overflowed with books in no particular order, sci-fi next to poetry, next to cookbooks, next to graphic novels. There were plants everywhere. Jordan had what she called a minor obsession with keeping green things alive, which Sloan found endearing, if slightly chaotic. Okay, Jordan said, positioning Sloan on the well-worn sofa and wrapping her in what appeared to be a hand-knitted blanket that smelled faintly of cat, though Jordan didn't have a cat, which raised questions Sloan didn't have the energy to ask. First things first. Are you okay? And I mean really okay. Not the I'm fine thing you do where you're clearly not fine, and I have to drag it out of you over 3 glasses of wine. Sloan pulled the blanket tighter around herself. Now that the adrenaline was wearing off, she felt exhausted and hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside her and left only the shell. I don't know, she admitted. It still doesn't feel real. Did Victoria Ashford really just kick me out for not getting pregnant fast enough? That's literally what happened, yes. Jordan disappeared into the kitchen and returned with 2 mugs of hot chocolate, complete with mini marshmallows, because she was a saint. Which is insane, by the way. You're not a vending machine that's supposed to dispense Ashford airs on command. Try telling her that. I would love to. I have several choice words for Victoria Ashford, and most of them are 4 letters long. Jordan sat down next to Sloan, tucking her feet under her on the couch. What did Alexandra say? Does she even know? She's in Tokyo. Her flight doesn't land for another 2 days. Sloan took a sip of hot chocolate and felt a wave of nausea roll over her, probably from stress, probably from the emotional whiplash of the morning. She set the mug down quickly. By the time she gets back, her mother will have already spun this into some story about how I decided to leave. How I needed space to think about my future. You have to call her. And say what? Hey babe, Your mom kicked me out because I'm apparently a defective Omega who can't perform my most basic biological function. Sloane's voice cracked slightly on the last words, and she hated how small she sounded. How broken. Jordan moved to sit closer, putting an arm around Sloane's shoulders. You are not defective. You know that, right? Victoria Ashford is a controlling nightmare who thinks she can play puppet master with everyone's lives. This isn't about you being defective. It's about her being a terrible person. Then why do I feel so? Sloan trailed off, not sure how to articulate the mix of shame, anger, and hurt swirling in her chest like a hurricane. Because she hit you where it hurts. She knows Omega biology and pregnancy are sensitive topics, and she weaponized that against you. Jordan's voice was firm, certain in a way Sloan wished she could be. It's manipulative and cruel, and Alexandra is going to lose her mind when she finds out. Will she, though? Sloan asked quietly. She's never stood up to her before. About anything. Her mother picks out her suits. She schedules her appointments. She probably still cuts her food for her. Okay, that last one is probably an exaggeration. Is it though? Have you seen them at dinner parties? They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the situation settling over them both like a heavy blanket. What are you going to do? Jordan asked finally. I don't know. Sloan laughed bitterly. Find a job, I guess? Find a place to live? Figure out my life? You know, all the things I thought I wouldn't have to worry about because I was stupidly in love with an alpha who came with her own trust fund and estate. You can stay here as long as you need to. We'll figure this out together. Jordan, you live in a one-bedroom apartment. I can't. You can and you will. Jordan's tone brooked no argument. The couch is surprisingly comfortable. I've tested it after many questionable life choices, and I've been meaning to have a roommate anyway. Gets lonely sometimes, talking to my plants. Despite everything, Sloan smiled. You're the best friend anyone could ask for. I know. It's both a blessing and a curse. Jordan grabbed the remote. Now, we're going to watch terrible reality TV, eat our feelings, and forget about the Ashford family for at least 3 hours. And then we're going to make a plan. Sounds perfect. That night, Sloan lay on Jordan's couch, which was, to her surprise, actually quite comfortable, staring at the ceiling and thinking. Her phone sat on the coffee table silent. No calls from Alexandra. She was probably in back-to-back meetings in Tokyo, completely unaware that her mother had dismantled their life while she was gone. No messages from anyone at the estate except a brief, formal text from Margaret, confirming that the rest of Sloane's belongings would be shipped to whatever address she provided. It was surreal. 2 years of her life, gone in a single morning. She found herself thinking about the early days with Alexandra. They'd met at a charity auction, cliché Sloan knew, but it had been genuine. Alexandra had been charming and attentive, and unlike other alphas Sloan had dated, she'd actually listened when Sloan talked about her interests, her dreams, her plans for the future. The future. Sloan had been so sure about that future. She'd imagined growing old with Alexandra, raising children together, building a life that was theirs despite Victoria's constant interference. She'd imagined holidays and birthdays and lazy Sunday mornings. Now she had nothing but 3 suitcases and a Birkin bag. When had it changed? When had Alexandra stopped seeing her as a partner and started seeing her as, what? A future parent for the Ashford heir? Had she always seen her that way? Had Sloan been blind to it because she wanted so badly to believe in the fairy tale? Her stomach churned, and she felt another wave of nausea. Stress, she told herself. It was just stress. But something nagged at the back of her mind. Something she couldn't quite put her finger on. When was her last heat? Sloan usually kept track religiously on her phone, in a journal everywhere. But with everything going on, Victoria's increasing pressure about pregnancy, the fertility treatment suggestions, the constant subtle implications that she was failing in her Omega duties, she'd been distracted. She grabbed her phone and opened her calendar app, scrolling back through the weeks. 6 weeks. It had been 6 weeks since her last heat. Sloan sat up so fast she nearly fell off the couch. No, that couldn't be right. She was just late. Stress could do that. Victoria Ashford's nightmare behavior could definitely cause enough stress to throw off her cycle. Her body was probably just reacting to the emotional turmoil, the upheaval, But even as she told herself that, doubt crept in. Because she had been feeling off lately. The fatigue, the nausea, the weird food aversions, she'd nearly gagged at the smell of coffee that morning, and she loved coffee. She'd been attributing it all to stress. To Victoria. To the pressure of being an Ashford Omega. But what if? Oh no, Sloan whispered to the empty room. Oh no. The next morning, Sloan found herself standing in the pharmacy aisle at 7 a.m., staring at what appeared to be several hundred different pregnancy test options. Jordan stood next to her, still in her pajamas, flannel pants with little pineapples on them, because she was that person, because Sloan had woken her up at 6:45 a.m. in a full-blown panic. Why are there so many options? Sloan hissed, very aware of the elderly woman shopping for antacids 2 aisles over who kept giving them curious looks. Don't they all do the same thing? I mean, I assume so. Jordan picked up a box and studied it like it was written in a foreign language. This one says early detection. That sounds good, right? What about this one that says digital display? Is that better? Do I need digital? How should I know? I've never bought a pregnancy test. Well, neither have I. The elderly woman looked over at them with open interest now, clearly enjoying the show. Sloan grabbed the nearest box. She didn't even look at which one and speed-walked toward the checkout. Smooth, Jordan muttered, following with 2 more boxes because what if the first one is defective or something? At the checkout counter, the teenage cashier looked supremely uninterested in their purchase, which Sloan appreciated more than she could express. She paid in cash, because God forbid this showed up on any credit card statement that might somehow make its way to Victoria Ashford, and practically ran out of the store. Back at Jordan's apartment, the 3 pregnancy test boxes sat on the bathroom counter like tiny bombs waiting to explode. You have to take one eventually, Jordan said from where she was hovering in the doorway. I know. I'm just... Sloan stared at the boxes. What if I am pregnant? Then you're pregnant. What if I'm not? Then you're not, and we figure out why you've been feeling sick. What if? Sloan, you're spiraling. Take the test. Sloan picked up one of the boxes and read the instructions 3 times, even though they were fairly straightforward and involved exactly 2 steps. Her hands were shaking. Do you want me to leave? Jordan asked. No. Stay. I need moral support, okay? Okay, but I'm not going to watch you pee. That's where I draw the friendship line. Despite her anxiety, Sloan laughed. Fair enough. 5 minutes later, she'd taken the test and set it on the counter. According to the box, she needed to wait 3 minutes. 3 minutes had never felt so long. Sloan and Jordan sat on the bathroom floor, backs against the wall, staring at the test like it might suddenly sprout legs and run away. What are you going to do if it's positive? Jordan asked quietly. I don't know. Sloan pulled her knees up to her chest. Call Alexandra, I guess. That's a fun conversation. Hey, remember how your mom kicked me out for not being able to get pregnant? Plot twist. The irony is pretty spectacular. The irony is that I'm potentially pregnant and homeless. You're not homeless. You have me. I can't raise a baby in your 1-bedroom apartment, Jordan. You can barely fit all your plants in here. We'd make it work. It would be like those sitcoms where unlikely roommates band together to raise a baby and hilarity ensues. This is my actual life, not a sitcom. Jordan's phone timer went off. She looked at Sloan. It's time. I can't look. Sloan. You look. This is your test now. I don't think that's how biology works. Best friend duties include looking at pregnancy tests, right? I think that's in the contract. I'm pretty sure best friend duties are more like helping you move or pretending to like your bad cooking, not interpreting life-changing medical results. Jordan, please. I can't look. With a sigh, Jordan got up and grabbed the test. She looked at it. Her eyes went wide. What? Sloan scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. What does it say? Wordlessly, Jordan turned the test around. 2 pink lines. Positive. For a moment, Sloan just stared at it, her brain refusing to process what she was seeing. Then reality crashed over her like a wave, cold and overwhelming and utterly life-changing. I'm pregnant, she whispered. You're pregnant, Jordan confirmed. With Alexandra Ashford's baby. Yes. The baby her mother said you couldn't have. The very same. Sloan started laughing. It was slightly hysterical, bordering on unhinged, but she couldn't help it. The absurdity of the situation was just too much. Oh my God, she gasped between laughs. Oh my God, this is insane. Victoria Ashford kicked me out because she thought I couldn't get pregnant, and I'm literally pregnant. What are you going to do? Jordan asked, though she was smiling too, caught up in the ridiculous irony of it all. I have no idea. Sloan was laughing so hard now that tears were streaming down her face. This is the most ridiculous thing that's ever happened to anyone. I should call her. Hey Victoria, remember how you said I was defective? Well, there's a tiny Ashford currently under construction in my uterus, so joke's on you. Okay, maybe we don't call her. But we should call a doctor? Doctor, yes. That's the logical next step. Sloan took a deep breath, trying to calm down. And then I guess I have to tell Alexandra. Have you heard from her at all? Sloan checked her phone. There was a message from Alexandra that had come in an hour ago, while Sloan was panicking in the pharmacy aisle. Alexandra, good morning. Tokyo is exhausting but productive. How are things at home? Miss you. Your scent lingered on the pillow this morning. I can't stop thinking about you. Sloan stared at the message. Alexandra had no idea. She was in Tokyo, probably in some high-rise office drinking expensive coffee and talking about quarterly reports, completely unaware that her mother had thrown out her Omega and that said Omega was currently having a minor breakdown in a bathroom. And that sent comment. God. Alexandra had always been obsessed with her scent, said it smelled like vanilla and honey and home. Sloan had never fully understood it, the way alphas experienced Omega pheromones, but Alexandra had tried to explain it once. It's like, Alexandra had said, her eyes half closed in memory, like the first warm day after a long winter. Like coming home after being away for years. Like everything finally making sense. Sloan had blushed then. She was blushing now, despite everything. I can't tell her over text, Sloan said, pushing the phone away. This isn't a text conversation. So call her. And say what? Hey babe, your mother kicked me out 2 days ago. I'm currently living on Jordan's couch, and oh by the way, I'm pregnant. I mean, when you put it that way, this is a disaster. Sloan slid down the wall to sit on the floor again. This is an actual disaster, Jordan. I'm pregnant. There's a baby. A tiny person who's going to depend on me for everything. And I don't even have a place to live. Or a job. Or, hey, breathe. Jordan sat down next to her, pulling her into a side hug. One thing at a time. First, we make you a doctor's appointment to confirm and make sure everything's okay. Then, you figure out what you want to do about Alexandra and her nightmare family. Okay. Sloan nodded, taking deep breaths. Okay. One thing at a time. Good. Jordan stood up and held out a hand. Now, I'm going to make breakfast, and you're going to eat something that isn't ice cream or existential dread. Can I have toast? You can have whatever you want. You're growing a human. As Jordan headed to the kitchen, Sloan sat on the bathroom floor, staring at the positive pregnancy test in her hand. Despite the chaos and uncertainty and absolute ridiculousness of the situation, she felt a tiny flutter of something that might have been joy. She was going to be a mother. Now she just had to figure out how to tell the father. The alpha father, who didn't even know she'd been kicked out. Dr. Sarah Chen had been Sloan's physician for 5 years. She was a calm, no-nonsense Omega specialist who had seen her through everything: heat cycles, the flu. That one time she'd tried a new birth control, and it had made her break out in hives. She was exactly the kind of steady presence Sloan needed right now. So, she said, looking at Sloan over her tablet. The blood test confirms it. You're pregnant. About 6 weeks along. She smiled a real smile, warm and genuine. Congratulations. Sloan felt the words settle over her like a blanket. She'd known, of course, the home pregnancy tests had been pretty clear, even the one that had apparently been defective and given her a brief heart attack. But hearing it from a doctor made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Everything looks healthy, she asked nervously. Everything looks perfect. Your hormone levels are exactly where they should be for 6 weeks. Dr. Chen set down her tablet. Would you like to see the ultrasound? Sloan nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Jordan, who had insisted on coming to the appointment and was currently sitting in the corner trying not to cry, squeezed her hand. Dr. Chen turned the screen toward them and pointed to a tiny flickering spot. There's the heartbeat. Sloan stared at the screen. At the tiny blob that didn't look like much of anything but was apparently her baby. She felt tears start to roll down her cheeks, hot and unexpected and absolutely unstoppable. That's my baby, she whispered. That's your baby, Dr. Chen confirmed gently. About the size of a lentil right now. Jordan was crying too, Sloan noticed. It's so small, Jordan said, her voice wobbly. Look how small it is. Dr. Chen smiled. She'd probably seen this reaction 1,000 times, but there was genuine warmth in her expression. The baby will grow quickly now. I'll want to see you back in 4 weeks for another checkup. In the meantime, I'm prescribing prenatal vitamins and some anti-nausea medication if you need it. She printed out a copy of the ultrasound and handed it to Sloan. Do you have any questions? Sloan had about 1,000,000 questions, but she started with the most pressing. Is it safe to? I mean, given that I'm currently living with my friend and not in the most stable situation. She trailed off, not sure how to articulate her concerns. Dr. Chen's expression softened. Pregnancy doesn't require perfect circumstances, Sloan. Yes, reducing stress is ideal, but babies have been born in all sorts of situations. What's most important is that you take care of yourself. Eat well. Take your vitamins. And try not to worry too much. Try not to worry, Sloan repeated. Right. That should be easy, given that the alpha doesn't know I'm pregnant, her mother threw me out, and I have no job or permanent housing. The alpha doesn't know? Dr. Chen asked carefully. It's complicated. It's a nightmare, Jordan interjected from the corner. Her alpha's mother is a villain from a soap opera. I'm not exaggerating. She has minions. I see. Dr. Chen made a note on her tablet, her expression unreadable. Well, I would recommend telling the alpha sooner rather than later, especially if you want her involved. But that's ultimately your decision, Sloan. This is your pregnancy, your body, your choice about who you tell and when. Sloan nodded, clutching the ultrasound printout. Her choice. Right. Alexandra Ashford arrived at Jordan's apartment at 11:47 a.m. the next day, looking like she'd run the entire way from the airport. Her usually immaculate hair was disheveled. Her tie was askew. She had the expression of someone who'd spent the entire flight catastrophizing about what could possibly be so important that her Omega needed to talk to her in person. But more than that, Sloan could smell her before she even saw her. Alexandra's scent hit her like a wave. Cedar and smoke and something darker, something that had always made Sloan's knees weak. It was stronger than usual, sharp with anxiety, undercut with something that might have been fear. Sloan's own Omega instincts flared in response. Her scent, vanilla and honey sweetened involuntarily, a biological response to her alpha's distress that she couldn't control no matter how hard she tried. Jordan opened the door, took one look at Alexandra's face, and said, "She's fine. She's on the couch. I'm going to make myself scarce." "Jordan, you don't have to," Sloan started, but Jordan was already grabbing her jacket. "I'm going to visit the plant store. I'll be back in an hour. Maybe 2. Maybe 3. Jordan looked at Alexandra, her expression serious. "Whatever happened, whatever is happening, I want you to know that if you hurt her, I know people." "You know people?" Alexandra repeated, her voice rough in a way Sloan had never heard before. "Vague people. Dangerous people. People who can do things." "Jordan, you work at a library. A library with very strict late fees and no mercy." With that, Jordan left, closing the door behind her with more force than necessary. Sloan and Alexandra stared at each other across the small apartment. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken words and conflicting scents. Alexandra's cedar and smoke was all agitation now, and Sloan could feel her own vanilla and honey responding in kind, trying to soothe, trying to calm, trying to do what Omega pheromones were biologically designed to do for their alphas. It made her furious, in a way, that even now, even after everything, her body still wanted to comfort this woman. Alexandra broke the silence first. "Sloan, what's going on? Your messages have been so strange, and when I talked to my mother, she said she stopped." "What did she tell you?" "What did she tell you?" Alexandra countered. "She said you'd decided to take some time apart. That you needed space to think about your future and our relationship." Alexandra stepped closer, and Sloan caught her breath at the intensity of her alpha's scent now that she was nearer. "But that doesn't sound like you. You would have talked to me first. And why are you at Jordan's? Why aren't you at the estate?" "Alexandra, sit down." "I don't want to sit down. I want to know what's happening. Did something happen? Did I do something wrong? Because I've been going over everything in my head, and I can't figure out." "Your mother kicked me out." The words hung in the air like smoke. Alexandra's expression went from confused to shocked to angry in the span of about 3 seconds. Her scent shifted too, the cedar turning sharp, almost acrid, the smoke going dark and dangerous. "She what?" "3 days ago, while you were in Tokyo." Sloan's voice was surprisingly steady, considering the storm of emotions swirling in her chest. "She told me that I was defective because I hadn't gotten pregnant yet. That I was wasting your time. That the Ashford line needed an heir. And then she had Margaret escort me off the property." Alexandra looked like she'd been physically struck. She sat down heavily on Jordan's armchair, all the color draining from her face. Her scent flattened, the sharp edges fading into something that smelled like ash and regret. She wouldn't." "She did. Ask Margaret if you don't believe me." "I believe you." Alexandra ran her hands through her hair, making it even messier. Her scent flickered, guilt, anger, fear, all mixing together in a combination that made Sloan's head spin. "God, Sloan. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. She told me you'd decided to leave. That you wanted space. That I should give you time to think." She looked up, her eyes full of pain. I thought maybe you were tired of waiting for me to propose or something. I thought maybe I'd done something wrong." "You did do something wrong," Sloan said quietly. Alexandra flinched. "You let her control everything," Sloan continued. "For 2 years, Alexandra. 2 years of her subtle digs about my Omega status. Her helpful suggestions about fertility treatments. Her pointed comments about the Ashford line. And you never once stood up for me. I know. Alexandra's voice cracked. Her scent went soft with shame. You're right. I should have set boundaries with her years ago. She's my mother. And she's always been controlling. And I thought if I just kept the peace. You can't keep the peace with someone who sees me as defective breeding stock, Alexandra. I know. Alexandra stood up, agitated. Her scent flared again, frustration, self-directed anger, desperation. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Sloan. I should have protected you. I should have told her to back off. I should have done a lot of things differently. They stared at each other, 2 years of unspoken tension finally bubbling to the surface. Sloan took a deep breath. This was it. The moment she'd been dreading and hoping for in equal measure. I'm pregnant, she said. Alexandra's scent went absolutely wild. The cedar exploded, the smoke billowed, and for a moment, Sloan couldn't tell what she was feeling because there was too much of everything all at once. You're what? Pregnant. 6 weeks along. I found out 2 days ago. Went to the doctor yesterday to confirm. Sloan pulled out the ultrasound picture and handed it to Alexandra. So your mother kicked me out for not being able to provide an heir, but plot twist, there's literally an Ashford heir right here. Alexandra stared at the ultrasound picture like it was written in a foreign language. Her hands were shaking. Her scent was still chaotic, but Sloan could pick out individual threads now. Shock, yes, but also wonder. And underneath it all, something that smelled like joy. This is our baby? Our baby. We're having a baby. I'm going to be a mother? Yes, eventually. Alexandra looked up from the picture, and Sloan was startled to see tears streaming down her face. Her scent softened completely, all the sharp edges melting into something warm and sweet and achingly tender. We're having a baby, she repeated, her voice breaking. Before Sloan could respond, Alexandra crossed the small living room and pulled her into a hug so tight it was almost painful. Her scent enveloped Sloan completely, cedar and smoke and something else, something that smelled like home. We're having a baby, she said into Sloan's hair. Oh my God, we're having a baby. Despite her anger and hurt, Sloan felt herself soften slightly. This was the Alexandra she'd fallen in love with, the one who was genuine and emotional and cared deeply about the people in her life. The one whose scent made her feel safe, even when nothing else did. Yes, we are, Sloan said. But Alexandra, we need to talk about your mother. Alexandra pulled back, wiping her eyes. Her scent settled, still warm but now edged with determination. I'm going to handle it. Right now. Today. She kicked out my pregnant Omega, the mother of my child. And she's going to answer for that. Alexandra. No. You were right. I should have stood up to her years ago, and I didn't. But this ends now. Alexandra's jaw was set in a way Sloan had never seen before. Her scent had gone sharp again, but this time it wasn't fear or shame, it was resolve. I'm not letting her drive you away or control our lives anymore. This is our baby, our family, and she doesn't get to dictate how we live our lives. Sloan had heard Alexandra make similar declarations before, usually followed by her caving to whatever Victoria wanted. But there was something different in her expression now. Something in her scent, too. A determination that Sloan hadn't sensed before. What are you going to do? Sloan asked carefully. I'm going to go to the estate. And I'm going to tell my mother exactly what I think of her behavior. Alexandra took Sloan's hands. Her palms were warm, and Sloan could feel her alpha's pulse racing beneath her skin. And then you and I are going to move into my penthouse, the one she doesn't have a key to, and we're going to start planning for our baby. Just like that. Just like that. Alexandra's eyes were earnest, pleading. Her scent had gone soft again, almost vulnerable. I know I've let you down. I know I should have done this years ago, but I'm doing it now. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing our family. And if my mother can't respect that, then she can deal with the consequences." Sloan wanted to believe her. God, she wanted to believe her so badly. "Alexandra, if you're going to stand up to her, I'm coming with you." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." "She kicked me out. She called me defective. I deserve to see her face when she finds out she was wrong." Alexandra smiled, a bit of her usual humor creeping back into her expression. Her scent warmed with affection. "You want to watch me confront my mother?" "I really, really do." "Okay then. Let's go tell Victoria Ashford that she's about to be a grandmother." The drive to the Ashford estate was tense. Alexandra gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white, while Sloan sat in the passenger seat trying to mentally prepare herself for round 2 with Victoria Ashford. Her scent had gone nervous, vanilla tinged with something sour. She couldn't help it. The last time she'd been in this car, driving toward this estate, she'd been happy. Now she was returning as the woman who'd been thrown out, pregnant with the heir they'd claimed she couldn't produce. It was a lot. "You don't have to do this," Alexandra said for the 3rd time. Her own scent was steady, cedar-grounded, smoke-contained. She was trying to project calm for Sloan's sake, and Sloan appreciated it more than she could say. "I can handle her." "I want to be there," Sloan replied for the 3rd time. "Besides, I want to see her face." "Fair enough." They pulled up to the estate gates, which opened automatically. Alexandra's car was always granted immediate access. As they drove up the long tree-lined driveway, Sloan felt a strange sense of déjà vu. Just 3 days ago, she'd been walking down this same driveway with her suitcases, convinced she'd never see this place again. Now she was back, pregnant with the Ashford heir, about to watch her alpha confront the woman who'd thrown her out. If this wasn't the plot of a dramatic novel, Sloan didn't know what was. Margaret met them at the door. Her expression was carefully neutral, except for a brief flicker of something relief. Satisfaction, when she saw Sloan. "Miss Alexandra." "Miss Sloan." She stepped aside to let them in. "Madam is in the drawing room." "Thank you, Margaret," Alexandra said, then quieter. "Sorry about the scene that's about to happen." Margaret's lips twitched slightly. "I assure you, madam, I've witnessed far more dramatic scenes in this household. I shall endeavor to be elsewhere." They found Victoria in the drawing room, having afternoon tea like she hadn't recently destroyed Sloane's life. She looked up as they entered, and her expression shifted from pleasant to confused to annoyed in rapid succession. Her scent, expensive perfume layered over something sharp and alpha-dominant, flared with displeasure. "Alexandra, darling, you're back early. I didn't expect you until this evening." Her eyes landed on Sloan, and her mouth tightened. "And you've brought her." "Her name is Sloan," Alexandra said, her voice cold in a way Sloan had never heard before. Her scent went sharp, protective. "My Omega. The woman you threw out of our home 3 days ago." Victoria set down her teacup with deliberate care. Her scent shifted, still sharp, but with an undercurrent of calculation. "I see she's been telling tales, Alexandra." "I was merely trying to." "Trying to what exactly?" "Destroy my relationship? Drive away the person I love." "I was thinking of the family, Alexandra. The Ashford line needs an heir, and she gestured dismissively at Sloan, clearly wasn't capable of providing one. Sloan felt her Omega instincts flare. The dismissal in Victoria's voice, the way she gestured like Sloan was nothing, it made her want to submit, which made her furious, which made her sense spike with anger. "I'm pregnant," Sloan said, unable to help herself. The look on Victoria's face was going to sustain her for years. Victoria's expression froze. Her scent went flat with shock. "You're what?" "Pregnant," Sloan repeated, enjoying herself now. She stepped closer, letting her Omega scent, sweet vanilla and honey, fill the room. Let Victoria smell the truth of it. 6 weeks along. Doctor confirmed it yesterday. There's a heartbeat and everything. She smiled her sweetest, most innocent smile. So about me being defective and incapable of providing an heir. Victoria's face went through a fascinating series of emotions: shock, disbelief, calculation, and finally something that might have been triumph. Her scent shifted again, recovery, regrouping. She was already figuring out how to spin this. Well, that's wonderful news. She recovered quickly, smoothing down her skirt. See, Alexandra? Everything worked out. Once the Omega comes back to the estate, we can begin proper prenatal care. No. Victoria blinked. Her scent flickered with confusion. I'm sorry. I said no. Alexandra's voice was steel. Her alpha scent filled the room, cedar and smoke, dominant and unyielding in a way Sloan had never experienced from her before. Sloan isn't coming back to the estate. We're moving into my penthouse in the city. Don't be ridiculous, Alexandra. The Ashford heir needs to be raised at the Ashford estate. It's tradition. The Ashford heir will be raised by their mothers wherever we decide to live. Alexandra stepped forward, and for the first time in her life, she looked like she was actually taller than her mother. Her scent pressed against Victoria's, alpha versus alpha, and Sloan had never seen anything like it. And Mother, you're going to apologize to Sloan. Right now. A real apology. Not one of your non-apology apologies. Victoria looked like she'd been asked to eat glass. Her scent went sour with indignation. Alexandra, I don't think. I don't care what you think. Alexandra's voice could have cut glass. You threw out my Omega. My pregnant Omega. Because you were too impatient and controlling to let things happen naturally. You called her defective. You made her feel like she wasn't good enough. She paused, letting her words sink in. Her scent pulsed with authority, real authority, the kind that came from conviction, not just biology. And you're going to apologize for all of it. Or you're not going to be part of this baby's life. The silence that followed was deafening. Sloan had never, in 2 years of knowing the Ashford family, heard Alexandra speak to her mother like this. She'd never heard Alexandra set a boundary, make a demand, issue an ultimatum. And she'd certainly never felt her alphas scent like this. Not just dominant, but protective. Fierce. For her. Victoria, for her part, looked genuinely shocked. Her alpha scent had retreated, pulled back in the face of her daughter's unexpected ferocity. You wouldn't. Try me. Sloan found herself holding her breath. This was it. The moment that would determine everything. Would Victoria apologize? Would Alexandra actually follow through on her threat? Fine, Victoria bit out, each word clearly painful for her to say. Her scent was sour, humiliated. Sloan, I apologize for my hasty actions. Perhaps I was premature in my assessment of the situation. It was possibly the worst apology Sloan had ever heard, delivered with all the sincerity of a hostage reading a ransom note. But watching Victoria Ashford have to apologize to her, the Omega she deemed defective, was more satisfying than Sloan could have imagined. And? Alexandra prompted. Victoria's jaw tightened. Her scent flared with resentment before she got it under control. And you're welcome to return to the estate if you wish. We won't be taking you up on that offer, Sloan said sweetly. She let her Omega scent soften, honey-sweet, and deliberately pleasant. The city sounds lovely, actually. Less oppressive. Alexandra squeezed Sloan's hand, probably to stop her from rubbing salt in the wound, but Sloan caught the slight smile on her face. The pride in her scent. We'll be in touch, Mother, Alexandra said. But from now on, there are going to be some changes. No more dropping by unannounced. No more making decisions about our lives without consulting us. And no more disparaging comments about Sloan's Omega status or our relationship. She held her mother's gaze. Her scent was steady, immovable. Are we clear? Perfectly, Victoria said through gritted teeth. As they left the drawing room, Sloan could feel Victoria's eyes boring into her back. But she didn't care. For the first time since this whole nightmare had started, she felt like maybe, just maybe, everything might actually work out. Alexandra's penthouse was exactly as Sloan remembered it, spacious, modern, and decorated with all the personality of a high-end hotel room. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city. The kitchen was full of top-of-the-line appliances that had probably never been used. The entire place screamed wealthy alpha who is never home. But there was something else too. Alexandra's scent was everywhere here, cedar and smoke, warm and familiar. It wrapped around Sloan as soon as she walked through the door, and her Omega instincts immediately began to settle. This was alpha territory. Safe. Protected. I know it's not very homey, Alexandra said, watching Sloan explore. Her scent had gone soft, almost nervous. But we can change that. We can change anything you want. Sloan opened the refrigerator and found it even more depressing than she'd expected. One bottle of wine. A container of takeout that looked like it might be achieving sentience. And absolutely nothing else. Alexandra, this is the saddest fridge I've ever seen. I usually eat out. You can't eat out for every meal when you have a baby. Babies need nutrients and routine, and Sloan trailed off, suddenly overwhelmed. The reality of it crashed over her again, and her scent went sour with anxiety. Oh God. We're having a baby. A tiny person who's going to need us for everything. She looked up at Alexandra. Do you know anything about babies? Alexandra looked panicked. Her scent flickered with alarm. I know they're small. That's your entire knowledge base? That babies are small. I mean, I can learn. We can take classes. There are books. Alexandra pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking slightly, Sloan noticed. I'm ordering books right now. And groceries. What do you need? What do pregnant Omegas eat? Food, Alexandra. We eat food. What kind of food? Sloan couldn't help but laugh at the genuine panic on Alexandra's face. Her alpha scent was all over the place, anxiety, determination, love, fear, and despite everything, it made Sloan's heart ache. Okay, how about we start simple? I need crackers, ginger ale, and pickles. Lots of pickles. What kind of pickles? I don't know. Just pickles. 20 minutes later, Alexandra had ordered enough groceries to feed a small army, including 15 different kinds of pickles, because she wasn't sure which ones you'd like. This is insane, Sloan said, scrolling through the order confirmation. We don't need 15 jars of pickles. You said you were craving pickles. I want to make sure you have options. Options for what? Opening a pickle emporium? Despite the absurdity, Sloan felt something warm blooming in her chest. Alexandra was trying. She was overwhelmed and clearly had no idea what she was doing, but she was trying. Thank you, Sloan said softly. For buying too many pickles. For everything. For standing up to your mother. For choosing us. Alexandra pulled her close, careful not to squeeze too hard. Her scent wrapped around Sloan, cedar and smoke, warm and safe. I should have chosen us a long time ago. But I'm choosing us now. And I'm not going to stop. She pulled back slightly, her eyes searching Sloan's face. Her scent shifted, something darker underneath the warmth. Something that made Sloan's Omega instincts perk up with interest. Sloan, Alexandra said quietly. There's something I've been wanting to ask you. Something I should have asked a long time ago. What is it? Alexandra's hand came up to cup Sloan's cheek. Her thumb traced over the curve of Sloan's jaw, and Sloan felt her breath catch. I want to mark you, Alexandra said. Properly. Fully. I want everyone to know you're mine, not because I'm claiming ownership, but because I want the world to know that I belong to you too. Sloan's heart stopped. In their world, a full alpha mark was serious. It wasn't just a bite, it was a bonding, a permanent connection between alpha and omega. It meant their scents would mingle forever. It meant they would feel each other's emotions across any distance. It meant they were bound together in a way that couldn't be undone. They'd talked about it before, in the abstract. Someday, Alexandra had always said, when the time is right. Now, standing in Alexandra's penthouse with their baby growing inside her, Sloan realized the time had never been more right. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, mark me. Claim me. Make me yours. Alexandra's scent exploded, cedar and smoke, rich and warm and full of want. She pulled Sloan closer, and Sloan could feel her alpha's heart pounding against her own chest. I love you, Alexandra said. I love you so much, Sloan. I'm sorry it took me so long to. Just kiss me, Sloan interrupted. Alexandra did. The kiss was slow at first, tender, almost reverent. Alexandra's lips were soft against hers, and her scent was everywhere, wrapping around Sloan like a second skin. Sloan's Omega instincts purred with satisfaction. Then Alexandra's hand slid to the back of Sloan's neck, and the kiss deepened. Sloan melted into it. She could feel her own scent responding, vanilla and honey, sweet and wanting, mixing with Alexandra's until she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Here, Alexandra murmured against her lips. Or somewhere more comfortable? Here, Sloan breathed. Now, I don't want to wait. Alexandra guided her to the couch, the ridiculously expensive designer couch that had probably never been used for anything more strenuous than business calls. She laid Sloan down gently, careful of her belly even though it was barely showing yet. Tell me if anything hurts, Alexandra said. Tell me if you want to stop. I won't want to stop. Alexandra smiled, that soft, genuine smile that Sloan had fallen in love with. Then she lowered her head to Sloan's neck. Sloan's breath hitched. The scent gland there was sensitive, more sensitive than anywhere else on her body. She could feel Alexandra's breath against it, warm and steady, and her Omega instincts were practically singing. I love you, Alexandra said again. I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. Then she bit down. Sloan cried out, not in pain, but in the shock of it. The sensation was overwhelming, pleasure and pressure and something deeper, something that felt like her very soul rearranging itself to make room for another person. Alexandra's scent flooded into her. She could feel it seeping into her bloodstream, mingling with her own, becoming part of her. And she could feel Alexandra too, the alpha's emotions, her intentions, her love. It was like a door had opened between them, and now Sloan could see everything. She could feel Alexandra's guilt about the past, her determination for the future, her overwhelming love for Sloan and their unborn child. She could feel the way Alexandra's heart raced when Sloan smiled, the way her alpha instincts preened whenever Sloan was near. And Alexandra could feel her too. Sloan knew because she felt the alpha's surprise at the depth of Sloan's love that had survived Victoria's cruelty, love that had survived 2 years of being treated like she wasn't good enough, love that had never once wavered. I'm sorry, Alexandra whispered against her neck. I'm so sorry I made you wait. I'm sorry I didn't. Shoo. Sloan ran her fingers through Alexandra's hair. You're here now. That's what matters. The mark burned for a moment longer, a pleasant warmth that spread through Sloan's entire body. Then it settled, and Sloan could feel it there, a permanent connection between them. She touched her neck. The skin was slightly raised, tender. But when she pulled her fingers away, they smelled like cedar and smoke. You're mine now, Alexandra said, her voice rough with emotion. And I'm yours. Always, Sloan agreed. Over the next few weeks, the sterile penthouse slowly transformed into something that felt lived in and loved. They painted the nursery a soft yellow, gender-neutral, Sloan had insisted. She didn't want to know the baby's designation before birth. They would love their child regardless. They bought actual groceries and learned to cook meals together. Or rather, Sloan cooked while Alexandra provided moral support and occasionally chopped vegetables. The first time Alexandra successfully made grilled cheese without burning it, she looked so proud that Sloan had to kiss her. Sloan's morning sickness, which was actually all-day sickness, was rough, but Alexandra was there for all of it. Holding her hair back, bringing her ginger ale, learning which foods would and wouldn't trigger nausea. Her alpha instincts had gone into overdrive since the marking, and she was hyper-attuned to Sloan's every need. Sometimes it was annoying. Sometimes it was exactly what Sloan needed. "You're hovering," Sloan said one morning, catching Alexandra watching her eat toast with an intensity that was almost comical. "I'm not hovering. I'm observing." "What's the difference?" "Hovering is annoying. Observing is caring." "That's the same thing." "It's not the same thing at all." Sloan laughed, and Alexandra's scent warmed with pleasure. Through their bond, Sloan could feel the alpha's satisfaction, the deep, primal happiness that came from taking care of her Omega. Jordan visited constantly, each time bringing some new baby item she'd found. "Look at these tiny shoes," she'd exclaim, holding up booties the size of her thumb. "They're so small." "The baby isn't even here yet," Sloan would point out. "I'm preparing. I'm going to be the best aunt ever. You're the only aunt, which makes me the best by default." Alexandra found this endlessly amusing, while Sloan found it endearing if slightly excessive. But they bought the tiny shoes anyway, and the tiny hats, and the tiny everything that Jordan kept bringing over. At 4 months pregnant, Sloan had finally stopped throwing up everything she ate, which she considered a major victory. Her baby bump was clearly visible now, and Alexandra had developed an adorable habit of talking to it every morning. "Good morning, baby Ashford," Alexandra would say to Sloan's stomach. "Today we're going to learn about corporate finance." "Baby can't understand corporate finance, Alexandra. It's never too early to start their education. They don't even have fully formed ears yet. The parenting books say babies can hear sounds in the womb. Hearing sounds is not the same as understanding corporate finance." This had become their morning routine, and despite Sloan's protests, she found it unbearably cute. But something else was happening too. Something Sloan had been dreading. Her heat was coming. She'd known it was inevitable. Pregnancy didn't stop heat cycles entirely, it just changed them. And with Alexandra's mark on her neck, with their bond fully established, this heat was going to be different. More intense. More demanding. She woke up one morning feeling it, the warmth spreading through her body, the way her scent sweetened almost sickly, the way her Omega instincts began to clamor for her alpha. "Alexandra," she said, her voice rough. Alexandra was already awake, already staring at her with dark eyes. Her scent had gone sharp with recognition. "I know," Alexandra said. "I can smell you from across the room. I'm sorry. Don't apologize." Alexandra crossed the bedroom in 3 quick strides, kneeling beside the bed so she was eye level with Sloan. Her hand came up to cup Sloan's face, and Sloan leaned into the touch instinctively. "This is natural. This is good. Your body knows what it needs." "What I need is you," Sloan admitted. "But I'm pregnant." "Is it safe?" "The doctor said it was fine. Remember? She said pregnancy heat could actually be good for the baby. Something about bonding hormones." "I don't remember that part. You were distracted by the ultrasound." Sloan laughed weakly, but the sound turned into a moan as another wave of heat rolled through her. Her Omega instincts were screaming now, demanding that she submit, that she let her alpha take care of her. "Alexandra," she said, and it came out as a plea. "I've got you," Alexandra said. Her scent was steady, grounding cedar and smoke, strong and sure. "I've got you, Sloan. Just let go. I'll take care of everything." And Sloan did. The next 3 days were a blur of heat and sweat, and Alexandra's scent wrapped around her like a blanket. Sloan lost track of time, lost track of where she ended and Alexandra began. The bond between them pulsed with every emotion, love, need, tenderness, desire, all mixed together until she couldn't separate them anymore. When she finally surfaced, she was wrapped in Alexandra's arms, their bodies tangled together in sheets that smelled like both of them. "Hey," Alexandra said softly. "Welcome back." "Hey," Sloan whispered. Her voice was hoarse. "How long?" 3 days. 3 days. Sloan tried to sit up, but her body protested. Everything ached. "I was out for 3 days? Your body needed it." Alexandra pressed a kiss to her forehead. "The baby's fine. I checked. Multiple times. Probably too many times." Sloan laughed weakly. "You checked on the baby during my heat?" "I was multitasking." That's kind of sweet, actually." "I try." Sloan settled back against Alexandra's chest, feeling the alpha's heartbeat beneath her ear. Their scents had mingled even more during the heat. She could smell Alexandra on her skin, in her hair, everywhere. "I love you," Sloan said. "Even though your mother is terrible." "She is terrible," Alexandra agreed. "But I love you too. More than anything." At 20 weeks, they went for the anatomy scan. Sloan was nervous, not because she thought anything was wrong, but because this was when they'd find out the baby's sex. They'd decided they wanted to know, even though they were keeping the designation a surprise. "The baby looks perfect," Dr. Chen said, moving the ultrasound wand over Sloan's belly. "All the measurements are right on track. Strong heartbeat. Good movement. Can you tell what they are?" Alexandra asked. She was holding Sloan's hand, and through their bond, Sloan could feel how nervous she was. Dr. Chen smiled. "You're having a girl." Sloan felt tears prick her eyes. "A daughter." She was having a daughter. A girl, Alexandra breathed. Her scent went soft with wonder. "We're having a daughter." "We're having a daughter," Sloan confirmed. They held hands and stared at the screen, watching their baby girl wave her tiny fists and kick her tiny feet, completely unaware of how much she was already loved. Building the nursery became their project. Alexandra, despite being useless with tools, insisted on assembling the crib herself. It took her 6 hours, 3 trips to the hardware store, and approximately 47 curse words that Sloan had never heard her use before. "You could have hired someone," Sloan pointed out from where she was sitting on the floor, painting baseboards. "I want to do this myself. I want to be able to tell our daughter that I built her crib with my own 2 hands." "You're going to tell her that it took you 6 hours and you almost cried 4 times? 4 times? It was at least 7. Sloan laughed, and Alexandra's scent warmed with happiness. They painted the walls a soft lavender, not because they were assigning a gender, but because it was Sloan's favorite color. They hung constellation decals on the ceiling because Jordan had insisted that every baby needs to know the stars. They filled the bookshelf with picture books and the closet with tiny clothes that made Sloan's heart ache every time she looked at them. It was perfect. It was theirs. Things with Victoria remained tense. She'd called several times, each conversation awkward and stilted. She wanted to be involved with the baby, but didn't quite know how to navigate the new boundaries Alexandra had set. "She's trying," Alexandra said after one particularly awkward phone call. Her scent was conflicted love for her mother warring with anger at how she'd treated Sloan. In her own controlling, boundary-pushing way. "I know." Sloan sighed. "I guess that's something. Do you think you'll ever forgive her?" Sloan thought about it. About the morning she'd been kicked out, the cruel words, the way Victoria had looked at her like she was nothing. About the ultrasound picture, the baby growing inside her, the family they were building despite everything. "Maybe," she said finally. "Eventually. But she's going to have to earn it." She looked up at Alexandra, feeling the bond between them pulse with shared emotion. "And Alexandra, if she ever tries anything like that again, she won't. And if she does, I'll handle it." Alexandra's scent went sharp with determination. I promise. When Victoria invited them to a dinner party at the estate, just a small gathering, nothing major, Sloane's first instinct was to refuse. Come on, Alexandra cajoled. She's been trying. And it's for a good cause. She's raising money for that Omega Health charity. The charity is fine. Your mother's dinner parties are nightmares. I'll be with you the whole time. And we can leave whenever you want. Promise? Promise. Which was how Sloan found herself back at the Ashford estate on a Saturday evening, wearing one of the few formal outfits that still fit over her growing belly, trying not to have flashbacks to being escorted off the property 4 months ago. You okay? Alexandra asked, squeezing her hand. Through the bond, Sloan could feel her alpha's protective instincts rising. Just memories. We can leave right now if you want. No, I can do this. Sloan took a deep breath. Her sense steadied. It's just dinner. How bad can it be? The dinner started normally enough. Victoria greeted them at the door, air-kissed near Sloane's cheeks, and complimented her lovely glow, which Sloan suspected was just sweat from pregnancy, but she'd take it. So glad you could make it, darling, she said to Alexandra. And Sloan, you're looking well. How is the baby? Active, Sloan said, which was true. The baby had started kicking recently and apparently enjoyed doing gymnastics at 3 a.m. Wonderful. Come, there are some people I'd like you to meet. The first hour was fine. Sloan made polite small talk with various society couples, accepted congratulations on the pregnancy, and managed not to roll her eyes when people inevitably asked if she was hoping for an alpha. We're hoping for a healthy baby, she'd reply each time. Halfway through dinner, Sloan excused herself to use the restroom. Pregnancy meant she had to pee constantly, which was both annoying and unavoidable. On her way back, she overheard voices from the adjacent parlor. Can't believe Victoria is just accepting this. Accepting what? That Omega raising the Ashford heir after everything that happened. Sloan froze just outside the doorway. Well, what choice does she have? The Omega got pregnant, and Alexandra actually stood up to her for once. Still, it's quite scandalous. Being thrown out and then coming back pregnant. A pause. Some might say it seems calculated. Are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying the timing is convenient. Sloan felt heat rising to her face. Her scent went sharp with anger. They were implying she'd gotten pregnant on purpose. To trap Alexandra. Or something equally ridiculous. She should walk away. She should be the bigger person. She should. She walked into the parlor with her best smile. Hi. Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help overhearing you discussing me. The two women, society types who Sloan vaguely recognized from other events, went pale. Their sense went sour with panic. We didn't mean. Oh, I think you meant exactly what you said. Sloan's smile got sharper. Her Omega scent flared, not submissive, but something else entirely. Something that made both alphas take a step back. You're implying I got pregnant on purpose after being thrown out, right? To trap the wealthy alpha. We didn't say. Let me clarify something. Sloan leaned against the doorframe, one hand resting protectively on her belly. I was already pregnant when Victoria kicked me out. She just didn't bother to wait and find out before declaring me defective. We didn't say defective. No, Victoria said that. You're just here gossiping about it, which is so much better. She tilted her head. Here's a tip. If you're going to talk about someone, maybe make sure they're not within earshot. Just a thought. She turned and walked away, leaving them stammering behind her. She nearly collided with Alexandra in the hallway. Did you just eviscerate Mrs. Harrison and Mrs. Blackwood? Maybe. Alexandra's scent was full of pride. That was the hottest thing I've ever seen. Sloan laughed despite herself. Your mother is going to kill me. My mother can deal with it. Those women were out of line. But Victoria had other plans. She found them a few minutes later, looking less pleased than she had at the start of the evening. "Sloan, dear, perhaps we should discuss appropriate behavior at social gatherings." "Appropriate behavior?" Sloan's temper, already frayed from the pregnancy and the gossip and being back in this house, snapped. "Is it appropriate for your guests to imply I got pregnant on purpose to trap Alexandra? They were merely gossiping about me? About your grandchild? In your house? At your dinner party?" Victoria had the grace to look uncomfortable. Her scent flickered with something that might have been shame. "Yes, well, you know how society can be." "Actually, I don't know. Because I'm just a defective Omega who got lucky, right?" "I never said." "You did. 4 months ago. Before you kicked me out of my home." The hallway had gone very quiet. Several guests had stopped to watch the drama unfold. Alexandra stepped forward, her scent sharp and protective. "Mother, I think we're going to leave now." "Alexandra, don't be ridiculous. The evening has barely started, and we're ending it." "Sloan's right. Your guests were out of line, and instead of addressing that, you're criticizing her for defending herself." She took Sloan's hand. "We'll see you next week for our regular check-in. Come on, Sloan." As they walked toward the exit, Sloan could hear the whispers starting up again. But she didn't care. She was done caring what Victoria's society friends thought of her. In the car, Sloan let out a shaky breath. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have made a scene." "Are you kidding?" Alexandra glanced over at her, and through the bond, Sloan could feel her alpha's pride. It warmed her from the inside out. "You were amazing. Standing up for yourself. For our family." She reached over and squeezed Sloan's hand. "Sloan, I'm proud of you. Your mother probably hates me even more now. My mother needs to learn that actions have consequences. And her friends need to learn some basic manners." Alexandra pulled out of the estate gates. "You okay?" "Yeah, just tired. And the baby is doing gymnastics, which is not helpful right now. Let's go home. We can order food, watch terrible TV, and forget about society drama for a while." "Best idea you've had all day." When they got home, Jordan was waiting outside their building with Thai food and a knowing expression. "I heard about the dinner party disaster," she said without preamble. "How did you already hear about it?" "It ended 20 minutes ago." "I have my sources." Jordan held up the takeout bags. "Also, Mrs. Harrison's assistant is my yoga buddy, and she was live texting me the whole thing. I brought comfort food and validation." "You're the best friend ever." "I know. Now let's go inside so you can tell me exactly what you said to those horrible women. I want every detail." As they ate Thai food and Sloan recounted the evening's events, with Jordan cheering at all the right moments, Alexandra's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "She wants to have lunch next week to discuss appropriate boundaries at social events," Alexandra read. "Is she serious right now?" Sloan asked. "Apparently. I'm going to tell her that her guests are the ones who need to learn about appropriate boundaries. Don't antagonize her too much. She's still your mother. She called you defective and kicked you out while you were pregnant with her grandchild. I think I can antagonize her a little bit." Jordan raised her spring roll. "I'll drink to that. Or eat to that. You know what I mean." Despite the disaster of the evening, Sloan found herself smiling. Yes, society was still gossiping about them. Yes, Victoria was still being difficult. Yes, everything was complicated and messy. But she had Alexandra, who was finally standing up for their family. She had Jordan, who brought comfort food and unconditional support. And she had a baby doing gymnastics in her belly, blissfully unaware of all the drama. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. At 39 weeks, Sloan woke up at 2 a.m. with cramps. Not terrible ones, but enough to make her uncomfortable. "Alexandra." She shook her alpha awake. "Alexandra, I think." Alexandra shot up like she'd been electrocuted. Her scent went sharp with alarm. "Is it time? Are you in labor? Where are the bags? Why can't I remember where the bags are?" The bags are by the door, where they've been for 3 weeks. Sloan breathed through another cramp. Calm down. You calm down. I am calm. You're the one panicking. I'm not panicking. I'm in labor. There's a difference. The cramps got worse. They called the doctor, who told them to come to the hospital to be checked. The drive to the hospital was surreal. This was it. After months of preparation, panic, and planning, they were actually going to meet their daughter. I can't believe this is happening, Alexandra said, gripping the steering wheel. Her scent was all over the place, excitement, fear, love, all mixed together. Believe it. Because this baby is coming whether we're ready or not. They arrived at the hospital at 3 a.m. The contractions were irregular but definitely real. The doctor checked Sloan and delivered the news. She was in early labor. Could be hours, the doctor said. Could be longer. First babies like to take their time. Hours. Sloan repeated weakly. Sometimes longer. Let's get you settled in a room. The next 12 hours were a blur. Contractions. Breathing exercises. Alexandra holding her hand and possibly losing circulation in said hand from Sloan's grip. Jordan showing up with an overnight bag because I'm not missing this for the world. You're supposed to be at work, Sloan pointed out between contractions. Called in sick. Family emergency. You know, because you're having a baby. That's not a family emergency. It is to me. Through the haze of pain and exhaustion, Sloan noticed that Alexandra was handling this remarkably well. Her scent was steady, grounded, calm, exactly what Sloan needed. She didn't panic when Sloan yelled at her only twice. She didn't faint when things got intense. She stayed present, supportive, and connected through their bond. You're doing amazing, Alexandra kept saying. You're so strong. You've got this. I really don't got this, Sloan gasped. This is terrible. Why do people do this more than once? You're doing great. I love you so much. I love you too. But if you ever try to get me pregnant again, I'm divorcing you. We're not married yet. Then I'm preemptively divorcing you. Jordan, standing in the corner and filming everything with Sloan's reluctant permission, was definitely crying. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the doctor said the words Sloan had been both dreading and longing to hear. It's time to push. At 4:47 p.m., after 12 hours of labor, Emma Rose Ashford entered the world. She was crying at the top of her tiny lungs, which the doctor assured them was a good sign. She was perfect 7 pounds, 4 ounces of absolute perfection. She had Alexandra's nose and Sloan's eyes, or so they claimed. She was very squinty, and an impressive set of lungs that she immediately put to use. Oh my God, Sloan breathed as the doctor placed Emma on her chest. Oh my God, she's here. She's actually here. She's perfect, Alexandra said, tears streaming down her face. Her scent was overwhelming, joy, love, wonder, all pouring through the bond until Sloan could barely breathe from the force of it. Sloan, she's perfect. You're perfect. I can't believe she's ours. We made a person. Emma stopped crying long enough to blink up at them, her tiny face scrunched in what might have been confusion about suddenly existing outside the womb. Hello, Emma, Sloan whispered. We've been waiting for you. She gripped Sloan's finger with surprising strength, and Sloan felt her heart expand in a way she hadn't known was possible. This was her daughter. Hers and Alexandra's. Jordan, still filming, still openly sobbing, managed to choke out, "She's so small. Look how small she is." After the medical staff had checked Emma over and declared her perfectly healthy, they gave her back to Sloan, who couldn't stop staring at her. "We made a person," she said to Alexandra. "We made the best person. She's not even an hour old yet. Still the best person." Alexandra leaned down and pressed a kiss to Sloan's forehead, then to Emma's. Through the bond, Sloan could feel her alpha's emotions settling into something deep and permanent. This was family. This was home. I love you, Alexandra said. Both of you. More than anything. Good, Sloan said, already exhausted, but happier than she'd ever been. Because you're stuck with us now. Epilogue, 6 months later. Emma's half-birthday party was Jordan's idea. Sloan had pointed out that half-birthdays weren't really a thing people celebrated, but Jordan had insisted that every milestone deserved recognition. She's 6 months old, Jordan had declared. That's a big deal. She's halfway to 1. That's technically true, but we're having a party. I'm making a cake. Don't argue with me. So they had a party. Victoria was there, actually sitting on the floor next to Emma's play mat, making silly faces that were absolutely not dignified for an Ashford, but made Emma laugh her adorable baby laugh. I never thought I'd see the day, Jordan whispered to Sloan, watching Victoria play peekaboo. I know. It's weird, right? Extremely weird. But also kind of nice. Yeah. Sloan smiled, feeling the bond pulse with contentment from Alexandra, who was watching from across the room with soft eyes. Kind of nice. Emma had turned into an absolute delight of a baby. She was smiley and curious, just starting to sit up on her own, and had Alexandra completely wrapped around her tiny finger. Who's the cutest baby in the world? Alexandra cooed at her. You are. Yes, you are. You've become one of those parents, Sloan observed. I know. I don't even care. Work was going well for both of them. Sloan's consulting business was thriving. Turns out being able to work from home while watching a baby was actually possible with the right schedule and a lot of coffee. Alexandra had started working from home more too, claiming it was to maintain work-life balance, but really just wanting to spend more time with Emma. Their relationship with Victoria had improved significantly. She still had her controlling moments, but she respected boundaries now. She called before visiting. She didn't make disparaging comments about Omegas. And she had actually apologized, genuinely apologized several more times for how she treated Sloan. I was wrong, she'd said last month during one of her visits. About so many things. About Omega rights. About what matters in life. About you. She'd met Sloan's eyes. I'm sorry. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And that counted for something. As Sloan watched her strange little family, Alexandra trying to convince Emma to eat mashed sweet potatoes while she blew raspberries at her, Jordan taking approximately 7 million photos, Victoria offering actually helpful advice about babies. She couldn't help but think about how much had changed in a year. A year ago, she'd been thrown out of the Ashford estate. Declared defective. Told she wasn't good enough. Now she was here. Successful. Happy. Surrounded by people who loved her. With a daughter who was perfect in every way, and an alpha whose bond pulsed in her chest like a second heartbeat. What are you thinking about? Alexandra asked, coming over with Emma in her arms. Emma immediately reached for Sloan, making her little grabby hands. Just everything. How much has changed? Good changes. Mostly good. Sloan took Emma, who immediately grabbed a fistful of her hair. Some weird changes. Victoria playing peekaboo will never not be weird. Alexandra laughed. True. But weird good. Weird good. Emma let out a squeal of delight and pulled Sloan's hair harder. Ow. Emma, that's attached to my head. She's very strong, Alexandra said proudly. Takes after her mother's. Which one? Both. Later that evening, after the party had ended and Jordan had left with leftover cake and promises to babysit any time they needed, Sloan sat in the nursery's rocking chair with Emma. She was almost asleep, her eyes drooping as she fought to stay awake. Let me tell you a story, Sloan said softly. Emma blinked up at her. Once upon a time, there was an Omega who got thrown out by her Alpha's family because they didn't think she was good enough. But plot twist, she was already pregnant with their heir. Emma made a cooing noise. And you know what? That Omega built a whole new life. And she was happy. And she had the most perfect daughter in the world. Emma's eyes finally closed. "The end," Sloan whispered. And they all lived messily ever after. Alexandra appeared in the doorway, watching them with that soft expression she got whenever she saw Sloan with Emma. Through the bond, Sloan could feel her alpha's love, warm and steady and endless. "She asleep. I think the party wore her out. Let's get her in the crib, and then we can actually relax for 5 minutes before she wakes up again." They worked together to settle Emma in her crib, a process they'd perfected over the past 6 months. She sighed but didn't wake, which they counted as a victory. In their bedroom, Sloan collapsed onto the bed with a groan. Parenting is exhausting, but worth it. So worth it. Alexandra lay down next to her, pulling her close. Her scent wrapped around Sloan, cedar and smoke, warm and familiar and home. "I love you. And I love our weird, complicated, perfect little family. I love you too. Even though your mother tried to ruin my life. She's trying to be better. She really is. It's unsettling. Would you prefer she go back to being terrible?" "No. This is better. Just weird." They lay in comfortable silence for a moment. Sloan touched the mark on her neck, the one that bound them together, the one that meant she would always be able to feel Alexandra's love, no matter what. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if Victoria hadn't kicked you out?" Alexandra asked. "Sometimes." Sloan stared at the ceiling. "I probably wouldn't have started my business. We probably wouldn't have moved into the penthouse. We might not have figured out all the communication issues we were having." She turned her head to look at Alexandra. "So, in a weird way, getting kicked out was the best thing that could have happened. Don't tell your mother that, though. She doesn't need the ego boost." Alexandra laughed. "Deal." Emma started fussing from the nursery. "I've got it," Sloan said, already getting up. "I'll make you tea." "You're perfect." "I'm really not. But I'm trying." As Sloan went to comfort Emma and Alexandra headed to the kitchen, the penthouse filled with the sounds of their life. A baby crying, footsteps on hardwood floors, the kettle starting to boil, soft voices soothing and comforting. It wasn't the life Sloan had imagined a year ago. It was better. Messy and complicated and absolutely nothing like a fairy tale. But it was theirs. And that made it perfect.